So thank you all for joining the first IALD Middle East session. Today we will be chatting with Pooja Shah-Mulani and Vinod Pillai about the project Indego by Vineet, which was the winner of the Restaurant Project of the Year at Light Middle East earlier in January. So for those of you who don't know us, the ILD is the International Association of Lighting Designers, and we focus on promoting the importance of lighting design in the construction industry. And so that everybody knows, this webinar is being recorded and will be available to all ILD members through our online portal. But if you are interested in becoming an ILD member, you can visit our website at www.iald.org, or you can email us at middleeast@iald.me. So with all that said, let me introduce to you our guests. Let's start with Pooja. Pooja Shah-Mulani is an award-winning interior designer. She is a partner and design director at ALW here in Dubai, where she has been working since 2012. With Indian heritage, Pooja's journey has taken her through Africa, the UK, Italy, and the Middle East. These cultural connections have been instrumental in weaving together a unique philosophy that is seen in her designs throughout the region as well as internationally. Over the past decade at LW, Pooja has developed her design talent and success with her natural leadership qualities that allow her to now lead the way for LW into the future. Pooja's deep understanding of the interior design industry allows her to come up with original concepts and deliver impeccable execution at the same time. Although her personal style would be best described as contemporary and fun, ultimately, it's a reflection of her personality that is the driving factor of the experience it creates for others. Pooja has designed and led some outstanding award-winning projects such as the Dubai edition, Ball and Bear Restaurant, and St. Trop Bar at Waldorf Astoria DIFC, 77 at Park Hyatt in Dubai Creek, and Zest Cafe at Holiday Inn Festival City, to just name a few. Recently completed projects include the much anticipated Bab Al Shams Resort and Spa, Vita Dubai Marina Yacht Club, City Social, and Seven Tails at Grosvenor House, and the Radisson Resort on the Palm, Dubai. So thank you very much for joining us today, Pooja.
Thank you very much. That was a very long intro, but thank you.
So also joining us today, here is Vinod Pillai, Design Director at Studio Lumen, one of the leading lighting design firms in the Middle East, Africa, South Asia region, with a portfolio of projects that spans all sectors of the built environment. Starting his career as an architect in India, working on hospitality projects, Vinod's introduction to lighting design was incidental. As part of his pursuit to complement and accent architecture that he loved creating, lighting has been the mainstay ever since. And the mission has always been the creative integration of light and shade complementing the architecture. The journey led him to co-star a lighting design firm in India, which redefined the perspective of creative lighting design in the region. This was followed by stints with blue chip manufacturers in Australia and the Middle East, which bolstered his technical and commercial aspects, which were instrumental in bringing Vinod's creative concept to fruition. Over the last decade, Vinod's portfolio of award-winning work as the lighting leader at LW and design director at Studio Lumen ranges from high-end hospitality, residential, public realm, spiritual, art galleries, workplace environmental, retail, etc. In short, all that is in the visual realm. This select band includes the AMG car showroom at City Walk, Bushra by Buddha Bar, Siddhartha Lounge, Indego by Vineet, the one that we will be talking about today, Ash's chain of restaurants, Flair Number 5, Chic Nona, and recently opened Bab Al Shams Resort and Spa. With his lighting footprint expected to grow in the next few months to the one and only Zero Hotels, Bab's Hindu Mandir in Abu Dhabi, and the Mercedes-Benz flagship in Dubai, to name a few. Vinod believes that every space has a story to tell, big or small. drawing inspiration from them to create a contextual reference to his concepts. Having been amidst various cultures, he has always been enthused by the various sociocultural responses to light and dark. He brings these attributes to his holistic and highly collaborative design approach, believing light cannot be treated in isolation. Welcome, Vinod. So,
Thank you. A lot of food outlets there, yeah?
yeah, but it sounds all very interesting. So, how about we get this
Yeah.
started and you give us a quick introduction to the project and tell us what it was all about and give us some intro to the concept behind it.
Yeah, well, we can do that. I mean, Pooja, like I was saying, I mean, I can share screen now and then run through the images and you can chip in and I can chip in with the lighting perspective, if that's all right, yeah?
Sure.
Right. So Indigo by Vineet, Pooja, do you want to probably start off and then I can probably chip in with my lighting perspective, yeah?
Yeah, I think this project is an interesting one to talk about just briefly about its history and how we're involved with it, and its success today. So LW were actually instrumental in sort of creating this brand with Chef Vineet. We did the original design with him more than a decade ago, slightly before my time, but the company had already done that with him. So we understood his food philosophy. We understood what he wanted to sort of create and what he wanted to bring to the market, and how unique and special his following actually was. So when they came for sort of the refurbishment and essentially a rebranding of Indigo by Vineet, but keeping its essence, it was important for us to kind of look at the core pillars of the brand and what worked successfully over the years and what we would still like to retain. So we kind of, took three main elements, if I remember correctly, three or four main elements that we've sort of reused in the new design. One is the Nataraja sculptures that you see here in the entrance that was sort of synonymous with the brand, and were more inside the restaurant than at the entrance. The second was these fret cut screens that you see at the back. And then, yeah, it is four. The third was the traditional Indian shoes. And then the fourth was this sort of deep red color that is synonymous with the brand as well. So those are kind of our four starting points that we had to kind of work with and then see how to reinvent it. And one of the key things that Chef Vineet and his wife were keen on was to kind of bring back a little bit the Indian brasserie feel that had been lost over the years and had is synonymous with the brand and what he wanted to achieve. So that sort of brought about the checkered flooring concept, but then you have like this sort of brasserie style chairs and more colorful upholstery and dining, and then obviously the lighting element played a very important part because we wanted to highlight various elements and different things. So that's sort of a brief history of the brand, of where the restaurant came from, why we sort of chose the colors we did, and why you kind of see some of these graphic elements that reappear from the old one, because it has a very strong following. So we needed to keep a little bit of that identity strong. I don't know, Vinod, do you want to add some
Yeah, I
more
was
stuff?
actually going to say, Vinod, you want to talk a little bit about those elements that Pooja mentioned where lighting was
Yeah, yeah,
critical?
yeah, yeah, sure. I mean, look, I mean, as part of what we used to do at LW and keep continuing to do at Sri Lumen is obviously work very closely with interior designers and the architects. And as part of that, obviously, when it comes to F&B, um, one of the main things is obviously the journey and the chef. Chef himself is a very important himself or herself is a very important part of the whole scheme because it kind of gives a personal touch to the experience that is happening there. So, like what Pooja was saying, I mean, all of these elements on an architect or an interior point of view was actually chosen and taken forward. It was a refurb job. I mean, like Pooja mentioned again, it was quite a popular restaurant that was already in Grosvenor House, which needed a bit of a facelift. And picking these, and one of the briefs, I believe, Pooja, was to not touch the, I mean, the minimal touching on the hard surfaces. It was more to do with, changing some of the walls, perhaps retaining a lot of those flooring, retaining the screens, and probably relocating them certain areas, but the ceiling could be redone in a few areas and that kind of thing. And for us, it was the new design kind of gave us impact views, if I can put it that way. So if you've been to Grosvenor House, you would see that this is actually opposite one of our other projects, the Bushra Bar, Buddha Bar. So it's kind of you get torn between these two beautiful spaces to go to actually, and this is actually very impact view, kind of creates that the red color and the steps already, and the Lotus maitre d' counter over there kind of creates that mood. Go in there, it kind of unravels a bigger universe over there, and then the mirrored ceiling over there, which was kind of not accenting, kind of expanding on that space. So it was quite tricky for us not to make sure that there was no reflections that were kind of pointing back onto that, because uplighting would have been a great way of lighting up a lot of things over here. But at the same time, it was important that it was not, seen through these mirrors as you walk in. You don't want to be dazzled by something that you try to keep away and try to keep discreet as well. So
Yeah, you
yeah, I mean,
mentioned that there was
taking
a mirror there, and I couldn't see it until now that you mentioned it. I honestly thought that this was a double height space. Very interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think
and
mirror is a very clever way to enhance a space. And I think between LW and Studio Lumen, we've now mastered how to light a mirrored ceiling without seeing any lights. This is one of our pet peeves, and Vinod's very aware of it, and he's very good at fixing it. We never like to see the light, but we like to see the effect of the light. So you'll see mostly everywhere here, you actually can't see any of the light source. It doesn't reflect anywhere, but you see all of the effect of the light, and it enhances the finishes the way that it needs to. It kind of enhances the design the way it needs to. And that's sort of the synergy I think he's talking about, with design and lighting working very closely together, in making sure that the right bits are enhanced and the right elements are seen correctly. And then you're not seeing any of the things that you don't want to see as well.
Right. And
yeah.
the screens behind that we see here behind this Lotus, those were also part of the details that you worked on, Vinod?
The screens were actually legacy, was inherited from the earlier one, and what was interesting was Pooja and team actually there's an interesting ramp behind it, kind of a circular pathway, and there was an interesting wallpaper that went onto it as well. And we kind of subtly wall washed that. We didn't want to make a big impact on that, but then that kind of created an interesting backdrop and kind of brought these screens in silhouette as well. So that was one of the techniques that we used to actually. So there was a lot of layers that we actually put on this every space actually. So there's a lot of layers that were mixed and matched, and again, the interesting thing is the space is it's got, as you go in, it kind of opens out into a terrace, which meant that the lighting gradient was quite important. How we actually worked through it created a kind of a wow effect, and then keep people comfortable as well as you traverse into the space. So this was another impact view for us. Straight away, what you see over there was the new feature bar with that interesting pendant. And correct me if I'm wrong, Pooja, that's an ostrich feather
Ostrich
design.
feather, yeah, chandelier.
Yeah.
This was very challenging and yet interesting in the same way, because the lighting effect that this creates is beautiful. It's kind of like this halo chandelier, but we didn't really want it to conflict with what the bar was doing, which also looks like it's sort of growing out of the floor in a way with the way that it's lit. So together, I think they work beautifully well, because they kind of really have the same tone of light, and they kind of merge together. And this picture, I think, shows it really well, because the back bar isn't the main feature, which it shouldn't be. I think sometimes we get it wrong, where we're trying to light bottles and light the back bar and show off this. But I think here what's been very successful is it's the main part of the bar and what's above it that become the main feature. And this sort of becomes your first vista that you look at when you enter the restaurant. And they just work very well together, the chandelier and the lighting underlight of the bar.
Yep, it really catches your eye, doesn't it? It also highlights sort of the textures of both elements that are there, and you can really see the difference between them. It looks gorgeous.
Yeah,
This
and
is
then
not
I
the
think,
best picture. I wish
yeah,
you
I
hadn't put
know. I
this one.
mean,
This one is not the best picture.
but it's always good to show the fails as well. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Well, okay, why
I
don't we
mean,
talk about we've talked about the parts that have been really beautiful. So how about we talk about the parts that maybe you don't feel very happy about, and why did that happen?
I mean, it's interesting actually to address that. So I'll let you go first before I kill it completely. No, you go first.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. Look, like I mentioned before, a lot of those were, because it was considered to be a refurb job, wherein it was not like shell and core, stripping it down to shell and core and then rework on it. It was like a lot of these areas had to be retained. So, I don't know which area Pooja was pointing out, but those wall lights over there and that wall over there is probably not the best scenario in the whole in the context of this restaurant, because that was kind of inherited, and some of those points where we had to retain them because we couldn't actually chip into those stones and etc. etc. So that's that, and then obviously, having F&B is such an a high-end F&B is such an impactful space that it kind of evolves as well as it is getting built. So some of these elements probably was brought in probably a week or so before closing as well. So then trying to bring in the lighting into that probably works, probably doesn't work, and those kind of things. So that was I wouldn't say there was any pain points, but this is just one of the challenges that we had to get over. That's all.
I guess it's one of the challenges of doing a refurbishment, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's absolutely correct in that this shelving. So my issue with this particular area is the shelving, and it is because that was sort of brought in at the end. Originally, there was a mirror at the back there, and then towards the end, the client said that it would be quite nice to have a shelving there, which, as a concept, it works very well. But because it was rushed towards finishing, and this is more of an ID point, but also sort of collaboration with the lighting, the color of timber that was used on the back here doesn't do any favors to the light. So there was, there was a very fine balance between trying to get the timber color correct and have the light color match, as it were. In reality, though, it doesn't look this contrasted. For some reason, in pictures, that shelving just looks very green with the lighting, and I don't know what it is. We've tried, and again, it was one of those that came towards the end, and it was retrofitted into the space, and you can kind of see that we didn't get it fully right with the the cohesion between the finishes and the lighting. So that's just for next time,
Well, Vinod, I don't know if you actually studied with Warren Julian, but he used to say that our eye has a magnificent way of balancing light and dark, which photography and cameras don't have. So what we see in photography is definitely a deeper
it
contrast.
Doesn't look like this in real life. Yeah, it's not as apparent, the color change.
We believe you, Pooja.
Yeah.
We believe you.
Yeah.
They don't agree.
No, I totally agree. Yeah. But the space is very interesting in a sense, like because as you come in from, this is kind of turns around, and you can see, actually you can, on the right hand side of this image, you can actually see the back of that bar that Pooja was talking about. So this is kind of tucked away behind that area, and then as you come in here, what's interesting lighting on a lighting perspective is that you actually walking into from the bar, you're actually walking into the dining space, which is, I wouldn't say bright, but brighter than the bar area, and then suddenly you are actually again getting into the zone, which is kind of private dining zones as well. And for us, what was interesting was how we could actually control the light to actually create that balance as well, because this then opens out into the terrace. So within a kind of an open plan, we had a lot of things to play around with. That was one of the things. And one of the other challenges that we had, and that's probably, I don't know if Pooja is aware of that, but when about 18 months before Indego by Vineet was actually on the drawing table for Pooja and team to work on, the engineering team at Grosvenor House had actually approached me and Lara and wanted us to change the lighting over there. So what we did was we actually did a retrofit of that whole space, and 18 months down the line, I saw Pooja and Jenny working on this project. I was like, oh, wait a minute, we just finished the lighting in that space, and then we were told it was going to be ripped apart and brought to this thing. While it was absolutely great, we just went back to the engineering and said, what are you going to do with these light fittings? And they're absolutely brand new. If you look at it, 18 months is nothing for a good LED luminaire. And what we did was then we went back and picked all of those out. We had the original specification with us. What we did, we just worked around with some accessories actually. And I think 80% of that fitting, that 80% of the fittings that actually went in the into the scheme 18 months back were actually retained for this one. So I mean, Grosvenor House, I think Suraj, engineering department head, he was absolutely happy that we could actually save on
Sure.
that kind of scenario. Because we went back to manufacturers, got and some of the fittings, interestingly, even were phased out. And fortunately, we could actually get some bezels and lenses and everything put together with the old fittings and brought back the scenario. Obviously, this is a big facelift to what it was before. This is the terrace area. It's a bit, I mean, this picture is a bit brighter than what it is actually. So if you look at that, that's the view that we get to see while you're on the terrace as well. So obviously, what is beyond the restaurant is also forming a big context for interior designers and lighting designers as well. So obviously, that was a very important part of what we were doing.
And the intention of the
Pooja?
lighting, I'm assuming, was also to create that privacy, right? And to maintain that
Yeah,
privacy within all of the areas.
yes, correct. I mean, yeah, I mean, I mean, anything bright in that or anything that other than the table itself was uncalled for in that area. There was an interesting detail that you can see on the ceiling that was there. There was originally a fan in there, and then it was kind of changed around to bring in an interesting detail. We thought that would also help the space, kind of unify it on a lighting perspective, and also as people look at it from the marina side, that kind of creates an interesting canopy as well. But that was it, and then we had some lighting going on to the planting and some table lamps, and then of course all of the view that you get to see that was kind of gifted to us, so we don't have to do much.
I just want to
Do
touch
you,
on one point that Vinod mentioned earlier regarding how the restaurant is split up. So it's important to mention that he wanted, so this chef Vineet wanted this restaurant to be a little bit like his apartment. So you have, you arrive obviously at the main entrance, and then when you go in, you have kind of the reception lounge type of area. And then the kitchen was very much an open kitchen, like a working kitchen, that you can see what he's doing inside. That opens onto the restaurant, and then the picture we were looking at before was sort of his private living room library, and it's actually called the living room. So if you want to book out this event, this area, it's called the living room, and it has like a screen separation where you can have a small, your own dinner gathering or whatever. But the challenge with all restaurants, especially one that has an open kitchen, is balancing the light between inside the kitchen and outside, because often there will be white light in the kitchen so that the chefs can see what they're doing, and that just bleeds into the restaurant space very bright and it's glaring. But I think we got a good balance here. I don't know if you have any pictures looking the other way.
No,
is
nothing
it,
looking that way, but yeah, I mean, what we've done with show kitchens, just to elaborate on what Pooja was saying, is I mean, and fortunately, chefs agree with that idea is that 3000 Kelvin as opposed to 2700 Kelvin, which is going into restaurant area, we kind of balance it out. I mean, they would love to have the 4000 Kelvin or white light, but we kind of agree on a balance of 3000 and 2700, which is not too bad when you look at it in that perspective. The challenge is always the high light levels that they require. But then we have a trick that we have mastered as well. We kind of cheat the chef with the lighting levels, anyways.
okay?
But the good thing is the food is still good and it still looks correct. So whatever's happening is correct in this place. So it doesn't matter.
Great to hear. I'll probably go. I have to go and taste it.
Yeah, you
So,
should. The food is very good.
all right. I'll write that down. I'll put it on my to-do list. So, changing the
That
the
brings us
tone
to
of the
the end of that slide. Yeah, sorry. Sorry.
changing the tone a little bit. Would you mind explaining to us a little bit about how was the collaboration process between interior designers and lighting designers? When did lighting design had to come into the picture? Did it happen right off the bat, or did it happen eventually? Give us a little bit of a story of how did that happen.
You want
Do you
me
want
to
to go
start?
first, Pooja?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna we over the years have become so comfortable working with Vinod and his team at Studio Lumen that it's become a little bit seamless with the way that we work and we do things. In many ways, it's not always the same with all lighting designers, and I have to greatly give Vinod the benefit of the doubt, because sometimes we just throw him in it very last minute because we're running so fast.
Yeah.
But that kind of, again, speaks to the level of synergy that we have between us, between the two firms, of how we do things. But essentially, for us as interior designers, we obviously start first to cement the concept and understand what the client wants to do, and then we try to engage the lighting designer at the schematic stage. So when we start developing visuals and RCPs at the same time, it's very important to get their input and obviously their vision and concept for what they're planning to do for the lighting. So I'd say that's about the time that we start working together. And then of course we work closely together during the detailed design phase to coordinate RCPs and light levels and coordination with MEP and all the rest of it. But that, yeah, I would
And the
say at
details.
schematic, and the details, of course, and all the joinery details and all the rest of it. But we start very much at the schematic stage. We've even had instances when a lighting team, Vinod has been commenting on our visuals to get the right light on the visuals itself that we present to the client. So there have often been meetings that I've been in where I have confirmed that all the light they see in the visual is all the light there is. So and that often gives the client a lot of confidence as well, that it's well coordinated and well thought about. Also shows them if it's too light, if it's too dark, if they'd like to have comments at that stage. So I think early on is a good time to start that coordination and process.
Yeah, the only
What's your
flip
point
side
of
to
view,
that
Vinod?
sometimes, the only flip side to that, Maria, sometimes is that the visuals look alike, and the client would wonder, what are lighting designers doing on this job? Just,
True.
I mean, but jokes apart, yeah, I mean, look, the advantage that our team had while we were at LW was, I mean, look, let me start off by saying one more thing is that it is not easy. Also, let's put it this way: is that it is very important to have the right synergy happening, and for that to happen, the interior designers have also got to be very receptive to your ideas as well. I mean, look, it is. Let me put it this way: it is their creative baby that we are actually going to make over in a way, and it is very important for them to trust us. And what I've seen with LW and a lot of other interior designers in Dubai as well is that good appreciation for lighting is very important, and to understand that the process that we go through is kind of similar, trying to bring in that experience. It's not like we are not the guys who come and put dots on the ceiling. We're the kind of guys who add to that experience, and kind of go hand in hand with what we're trying to create over there. Sometimes we have even commented on materials that is being used as well. And the great thing has been is that designers in LWR, they are quite receptive to that idea. I mean, they listen to you to say, oh, yeah, I mean, that's right. I mean, like, maybe we can look at it in a different manner and, take it from there. And so that kind of trust is very important. And like what Pooja was saying, with time, you get to the point where you know what that person is looking for straight away, even before they have presented you, even with the first visual. Yeah, and so that synergy is very important. Appreciation is very important, and that goes a long way. And not to say the client also needs to be quite receptive to these things as well, because I think. Can very proudly say, I mean, obviously, LW interior designers can say more, but I can proudly say that I think about 7 to 8 restaurants in Grosvenor House are by us, and one better than the other, I would say. So
Yeah.
that has been kind of our playground to keep bettering our own skills. So that's great. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So,
So it kind of
Pooja, can you tell us a
comes.
little bit? What's your favorite? Then, what's your favorite part of working with a lighting designer, and why do you choose to work with a lighting designer?
Because I think that, of course, like Vinod said, we very passionately create these visions and narratives and stories and these spaces that we get so immersed in. And if the lighting is not correct, then everything else just doesn't matter. I mean, I remember very early on in my career, one of my mentors said that if you walk into a space and you just think, wow, this is beautiful, the lighting design and everything else is successful. But if you walk into a space and if you're eating somewhere and, you know, there's a light bothering you or you're not quite comfortable where you are and you're kind of looking around and, you know, there's something in your face and whatever, then, you know, if anyone comments on the lighting, then we failed, because it should just be perfectly kind of simulated to enhance everything in the space that needs to be enhanced and focus on everything that needs to focus. So the food, for example, or, you know, a particular element, for example, that you should look at that is a wow moment. It's the lighting that's going to help enhance that, along with everything else. Of course, the music has to be perfect. Your arrival experience has to be perfect. The seat has to be perfect. All of these things add to it, but all of these elements create that memorable experience, and the lighting is one of them, because it really is those wow moments that you wait or you kind of are impressed by in a space that make you remember, or you kind of, you know, have it in your memory. So I think lighting design with interior design is not really optional anymore. It's kind of a necessity and it's integral, and there is no project that I can think of where we don't have a lighting designer or we're working and not working with a lighting designer. You can, you know, there are sometimes other consultants that clients want to skimp on, or they don't really want to use till the end, till they need it. But I think lighting is becoming more and more integral in every project, because people understand the importance of it, understand the importance of scene setting and mood lighting and creating the perfect atmosphere. We've moved really far away in modern design now from just a ceiling punctuated with spotlights on a grid. I don't think there's any new place in Dubai that has that. That was kind of, you know, the old type of lighting design that we were used to and everybody used to accept. But I don't think you'd find anyone accepting that in hospitality today, especially in high-end hospitality.
That's good to hear, because at the end of the day, that's the mission of the IALD, just to, you know, promote the importance of what we are doing, right?
Yeah.
So going back to this restaurant in particular, Pooja, what is your favorite part of the entire restaurant? And
This
Vinod, I
picture.
will follow up with you. Oh,
Picture
this area
is my favorite part. This picture, this area is the best part of the restaurant. I have some more pictures of this actually on my desktop, and it's just the way that it's layered and the light is just so beautiful. That is my favorite moment. From the time you go up the stairs and you look right and you see this through the portal, I think this is my favorite part of the restaurant, because every time, every step you take closer, you just get more and more and more of this experience that happens inside there.
What do you think, Vinod? What is your favorite part of this entire restaurant?
I think there's a lot of Instagram moments over here, to be very honest, because sometimes when I work on F&B, I tell the guys, tell the team, is that, these are kind of, there's a lot of Instagram moments in a lot of F&Bs now. Like, if you walk into any restaurant now, you've got an Instagram space as well, where you can actually go and do your, Instagram clicks. Um, for me, look, lighting wise, like I wouldn't say lighting wise. And that would be very wrong for me to say that, because, like Pooja was mentioning before, F&B, more than any other part of hospitality, I think is about really the five senses, really. There's the smell, it's the audio, the music. Everything has to gel well to actually get that experience. I think in one of the talks I did actually say, in a very crude manner, I did say that, if you walk into a Chinese restaurant and listen to Michael Jackson, the whole thing is lost. Michael Jackson is great, but Chinese food is great, but they don't mix, that kind of thing. So it's very important that these senses kind of come together to create that experience. And for me over here was that the way this restaurant was laid out, like I was saying before, there's a lot of impact views. Now, what it doesn't reveal so much as you walk up to that restaurant over there from the corridors of the lobby at the Grosvenor House. And then it kind of opens up, and then again you turn the corner, again a vista, and that's what, and like Pooja was saying, as you walk up to the bar, everything starts revealing itself. And I love that idea I love the idea of how light can play and can help play with that kind of a thing. Whereas from a macro level, you kind of see a gold leaf there, but as you come closer, you kind of see the the details within that. So that is and even the feathers, how they kind of pan out so beautifully with the textures coming in there. For me, it is that it is about how these moments work one from the other, and then as you go beyond this point is again the terrace comes up, and it's just one after the other. So there's never a dull moment in that place.
No.
So that's great.
I think, Vinod, here it's also important to mention that we actually got the lighting, both of us together, wrong at the bar first. When we were doing the design of this,
Yeah.
we actually thought it was a good idea to light it from below. So there was a small spotlight in each
That's
one
right.
of the scallops, so every second scallop that was uplighting this. But when it actually turned on, it
Yeah.
was like stripes that came on the front. And we had to change it. And like I said, we had a good client that understood it and could see where we'd made the mistake and wanted to rectify it and
Change.
fix it. And they were open to having it changed. And then when we obviously had it changed and did this wash down, we turned off the lights on the floor. And it was just a whole, different experience altogether. The other thing we also hadn't realized is that when people are sitting at the bar, if you look down, the spot was in your face. It was right
Yeah.
in your face. So
Right.
it's also okay to kind of admit that we made mistakes along the way, and then we had the opportunity
No,
to
I
fix it
think
because it didn't work.
I think that was a good fail and good lesson learned, because I think
Yeah,
we took that to the to City Social and made it better.
much better. Yeah, exactly.
The bar counter over there is just phenomenal, if you ask me. So
Yeah.
that there it is one up that we've done there. Yeah. So
So
Yeah.
let me see if I understand correctly. The uplights are still there, but just turned off, or
Just turned. Yeah, they're still
they're
there, but
still.
yeah, it
turned
was
off
too.
because they were already fitted into the marble. So if we actually remove the fitting, then you have to redo the marble flooring. So they're there on the floor, but they're turned off. They're not used anymore, and we now have it underneath the bar top, as you can see it.
Interesting.
Yeah, but
They've
again,
just
like
Every
shifted.
project has a story, right? And we
yeah,
should not be so
Yeah.
quick to judge what we see, right?
yeah,
Very interesting.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, you were
Yeah.
saying?
No, we've just left it there for any lighting designer to walk in there and wonder why that's not on. So,
Like I
well,
said,
now
this
everybody will
is
look
this is a
down and say,
lesson
"Oh, it's
not
not
to
on."
criticize what we don't understand, right?
Yeah.
No, that's great. Okay, so we have 5 minutes before we allow our audience to ask questions. I mean, we can continue to chat if the audience will allow us, but I did want to ask you one final question, which I think I know what your answer is going to be, Pooja. Is there something that you would have changed after seeing the end result of this entire restaurant?
Is there something I would have changed? I would have liked, but this is a design element. I think I would have liked to create a little bit more dynamic seating in the main restaurant dining area. I think that it feels sometimes like just a lot of tables and chairs that are right in front of the kitchen. So I would have liked to create a little bit more dynamic pockets of seating. It's very successful in the entrance, it's very successful in the bar area, and it's very successful in the living room that's just behind. But on the left side where the main restaurant is, I think we could have done a little bit more to make it a bit more dynamic. I'm not
Can
going to
you
talk about the
explain a
shelving.
little bit more about what dynamic means? Because we don't know if our
Dynamic
audience will know.
Dynamic more in terms of different types of seating, so more kind of lounge seating and then higher tables perhaps. So just so there's sort of different options and everything is not at the same level with the same tables and chairs. Yeah, I think that would have been a bit more, because you can see, if you see the picture before this, how it's a bit layered. Oh, did not stop sharing. Anyway, the picture before that, it was a bit layered where you had the
sorry.
low seating in front and then you had the higher seating in the back. I think something a bit more like that would have been a nicer approach to the thing. But not to mention that this restaurant is full almost every night, so it obviously doesn't matter what I think. But yeah, the chef has a very strong following, and it is full almost every night because it has a lot of repeat customers and a very strong following. So I think regardless of what I think, it does well.
Right. What about you, Vinod? Is there anything that you would have changed after seeing the end results?
Difficult one. Yeah, I mean, if I could redo some of those walls that we inherited, maybe that one, where some of the wall lights were kept in. I mean, look, it's a very difficult question, to be honest. I mean, not because it is a perfect place or anything. No design, no project is absolutely perfect. There's always a few things that you want to change, and if you don't want to change, then we have something wrong with us. Simple.
Is there anything in particular that you want to mention beside those walls?
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, look,
Okay.
again, at the last minute, there were a lot of changes, which kind of meant that, and again, ceiling, some of the ceiling depths were kind of uh, difficult to actually put in the normally deep set luminaire, which meant that something off the market had to be put in there, and those kind of things. Those kind of things. If I mean, it's part and parcel of the game that we play. Maybe at some point we just need to look at how we can actually get over those kind of hurdles. That's all.
Got it. Well, I'm going to open it up to our participants and our attendees. If you guys want to ask any questions, feel free to write them in the Q&A. In the meantime, I'm just going to keep having this conversation with Pooja and Vinod because it's really interesting. And honestly, I love the restaurant. I love the view. I love the colors. It just, like you say, Pooja, it just feels like it's just drawing you in. It wants you to walk in and just keep on seeing all of these vistas, like you say, and just experience the space. It's just really impactful as a space, and I personally love it. I have to go see it in person, to be honest, because I need to, in my opinion, the pictures look amazing. So if you say that this space is going to look even better in person, I want to be there. That's for sure. But
I
if you
can
want to
maybe share my screen because I've got a few more
absolutely.
pictures. And do you mind, Vinod? I can share, so I can just show us a few more pictures of the space, maybe towards the kitchen and things as well that you
No,
can.
no, I'm absolutely. I mean,
This is the curved ramp access that we talked about. That's just sort of behind the main entrance. Oh, is this gonna work? That's just there. You can see it on the left. So it sort of goes all the way up and around for the accessible access. This, I said, was, my favorite as you come in and then you go a little bit closer. So you can see here, that's sort of the kitchen at the back there. That's very much in front of the overall restaurant. Here, this is sort of looking back. You see, it's these sort of views that are kind of really my favorite, because I think the balance between the light and the design and the colors and the architecture and interior and everything is perfect here. Nothing is overlit and nothing is, it just works so well with all the colors here. It's just some other
That's
bar
beautiful. And we
details.
do have one question.
Mm-hmm.
How important is it for the lighting to be installed as per spec to achieve an award-winning space? Any tips for young lighting designers? Vinod, do you want to answer that one?
I don't know about an award-winning space. I mean, look, it is. I mean, look, specs are not something that we just pull out of some catalog and just stamp in there. Obviously, there's a lot of thought that is going into what we are. I mean, the performance summary of the fitting is very important for us to actually achieve what we want to achieve, and there's a lot of aspects that go into it. It is not just the light level, lux levels that we try and provide, and etc. etc. I mean, it's also about the experience that people will be having over there. I mean, like Pooja was saying, if somebody's going to talk about how glary that fitting is, there you go. It's not from afar it looks very good, well lit, but then when you are there to experience the space, if it doesn't work. So all of these aspects are thrown into what we call the specification, right? So that integrity of that specification is utmost important. We know that out there, there are, even for more manufacturers who kind of present you with the same kind of performances. So it's a matter of picking and choosing. And again, what we try and do in Studio Lumen is not try and get bogged down by a manufacturer or a brand and then build our design around it. That's never the way. For us, to be honest, light fitting comes last. What kind of light fitting? We always know what we're going to be using. I mean, don't get me wrong. We know what we're going to be using, but the idea is always trying to get that picture, that visual correct. Visual in the sense not what is just being generated, is also the experience that is being generated, that correct. And then we start looking at how we can actually put them together. And the specification is of utmost importance. The brand is not of utmost importance. Then, of course, there are certain effects that can only be created by a certain model of a fitting. Then we do actually go back and vouch for that, saying that okay, this is the only thing that can come, and we're happy for anybody to come forward with an alternative. And we don't ban alternatives. We look at every alternative that is put on our table to actually see if it really matches what we are trying to do. And again, we don't profess to be the guys who know of every light fitting out there in the market. I mean, there's always a new thing that's coming out every day. So happy to see new stuff. But specification, integrity, utmost importance.
Great. Well, here's another question. What happened to the lighting on the plants? Some of the plants are overlit and some completely ignored. There is something very magical and transforming when the plants are lit just right in a space, don't you think? Pooja, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. I'll start with the second question. Yes, lighting plants in the right way can really transform a space. And that was definitely the intention here. Our client loves plants, loves plants. So we sort of ended up having more plants than we had anticipated in the original design. And that's probably why some are lit and some are not. The space definitely looks beautiful with them all in. I just wish we had enough time to accommodate lighting all of them, but we kind of unfortunately didn't. The thing is, because this restaurant again is so popular, she wanted the flexibility to move the plants around as the tables move. So oftentimes there's different setups that happen in the different areas, so the plants move to accommodate where the tables are being moved to. So we couldn't really have hardwired lighting in all the plants as such, and that's probably why some are lit and some are not.
Great. There's one more question here. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to answer it, but feel free. How much budget was it afforded for this project in terms of lighting?
Not much. I can tell you that much. I mean, I can't recall the figure as such. But like I was saying, I mean, the brief that was given to the interior designers to start with was not to. It was going to be supposed to be a high-end soft refurb, if I can put it that way. So all the hard surfaces not to be touched. Yeah. So all
I
the
just to correct you, not all. We had to retain all the walls and all the ceilings. So even if you look in the
and the
original,
floor.
so the floor is new. All the floor is new.
Okay.
All the floor is new, but all the walls, which is the crema marfil that you see on all the columns, that had to be retained, and all the ceiling heights and all the round ceiling coffers that you see in. Oh, I forget that I'm sharing. In particular, I think you see it in this space, had to be retained. We couldn't change it from the original design. Let me see if I can find that photo. Here, all of this round circular ceilings is from the original design. And all of the walls in the back here had to be retained, and then the flooring was new.
All right.
Yeah. So as part of that, I mean, obviously, I mean, I think we all know we are never given a lighting budget per se, even if we ask for one. So we have to make up our own at times. But here, like I said, the key for us was that the Grosvenor House Engineering had already spent that much of, and mind you, the replacements that we had, like I mentioned right at the beginning of this interview, was that 18 months prior to this was getting redone. The whole lighting was changed from halogen to LEDs, and what we actually specified over there were actually quite pricey, high-end light fittings because it had to have a certain beam angle, no glare, that kind of a scenario. So it was the original spec, therefore, which was more of an engineering refurb, was actually quite. They had spent a lot of money on that. So it was very important for us to go in there and not to just rip that apart and throw them in the bin and then restart, because that was not the idea at all. So like I said, 80% of those fittings were actually reused. So if you ask me what the budget is, I can't say the figure, but I can tell you that we have easily, on the lighting budget, we probably didn't even hit 50% of what could have been for that kind of a restaurant.
Interesting. Well, another question here. Hi all, Dautant here from Light Graphics. My question is to Vinod. For this project or other hospitality projects, do you think sustainability has any importance?
Good question. Yeah. So sustainability does have a lot of importance, especially because, again, let's put it this way. Life of an F&B is probably 5-6 years, space 5 to 6 years, and probably if you push it, probably 10 years. And Pooja can probably tell us better of some of the restaurants that even 6 years I've been working in LW, I've seen, and we had worked on some, and by the time it was 5 years, it was redone to something else. So light fittings over here, for me right now, to be very honest, I've been looking at a lot of fittings, a lot of manufacturers who actually help us refurb that scenario, in the sense that it doesn't have to go back into the bin. It can be refurbished or re-enhanced to actually be brought back into the project, rather than taking the entire thing into the bin. So it's very important. There are a lot of manufacturers out there who do that. I think Gautam asking that question is probably because Light Graphics does that as well. And there are a lot of manufacturers who do that. And to be honest, we do actually look at that too when we specify the scenario. But yes, one thing we always need to always look at is always balancing out that cost scenario as well. Sometimes that doesn't fall always in favor of us, but then we have to sometimes do that. It again depends on the mentality of the operator slash client as well, to actually absorb these ideas in and move forward as well. A lot of projects where we think is of the utmost importance, we actually do have, we try and educate the client first to say, this is what we are thinking in the background. Do you agree with that? Don't you agree with it? Then we have to take a call on it. So yes, it does. It is very important that we look into those kind of products, because the lifespan of that space may be about 5 to 6 years, and then what after that?
Great. Another question. Is it possible to achieve a good design on a low budget? Does cost influence the look and feel, both in terms of interior design and lighting design? Pooja, do you want to take this one first?
Yeah, sure. This is a question that we get often. And no, cost doesn't affect the design that you can do. What does affect it is false expectations. So if you have the budget from the beginning, you know what you're designing to, and you can make beautiful spaces with low cost materials. And there's lots of ways to do it, and there's very many examples around Dubai where you can do it. The problem happens when you have an unrealistic expectation of the budget at the start, and then you get into a position where you're value engineering towards achieving the same look and feel with a lot less budget in mind. And then you're having to cut corners and find ways to save money. And this is essentially where the issues start to crop up, and you start to see a design looking unfinished, or we ran out of money, or that. And so I think it's important to have that conversation with the client early on, and be really open with, this is your budget, that's fine, we stay true to it, and we'll make sure that we're sourcing things that are within it. So we're not sourcing, a rare marble for an area that can't afford it. Or if we are sourcing that kind of thing, then it's a feature and it's used very selectively in main areas, and then we enhance it and we make sure that is the main feature of what we're trying to create in terms of vistas and magic moments and Instagram moments. So it's kind of understanding where to use the money to best enhance the design, rather than having an overall kind of negativity attached to not having enough budget or enough money for a particular space. And I think a lot of people don't have that conversation early on. And so you kind of put your heart and soul, we're all into an emotional business here. We like to all love what we do, and we really care about what we produce. So it's very disheartening when you come to kind of execution and things are getting cut out because we haven't got the budget for it. So we definitely try and make sure that we know what the budget is. And then we pinpoint, 5 key points that we want to make sure are the main feature or the main finish or the main moment of the interior design. And we make sure that we fight for those 5 pieces or for 5 elements to make sure that those are maintained as they are, sort of the integrity of the design, and move forward in that way. So no, you definitely can do beautiful design on a low budget. There's no issues with that, as long as you know it from the beginning and you're kind of designing realistically.
Great. Well, final question. Talking about layers of light, how do one decide what to be in foreground and what to put in the background?
That's actually a very good question, Vinod.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you mentioned in my bio, the long bios, there's always a story to tell, right? So you need to know who your main characters are, who your supporting actors, and there you go. That's what it is. So you walk into a space. What is it that you want? I mean, for example, not the Siddhartha launch of now, but the Siddhartha launch from before. Siddhartha launch has had, I think in the last 15 years, had 3 or 4 versions of it. The version before the one that is right now, wherein there was a lot of interesting, the shelving, the accessories on the shelving were very interesting in the sense that it was kind of the Lumen Park idea that was brought in there. And what we try to do over there was, unfortunately, I don't have images to show that. I just can't describe this. Is that what we try to do over there was actually light up the more earthy walls at the back, and to create a backdrop and scene. But the only thing that we lit up really consciously was actually the bust of the Buddha, because people forget who Siddhartha is, Siddhartha launch, and then only thing we lit up was the Buddha. And the idea was to prime the customer while they're there, meet, greet, and everything, and then you walk away with these images in your head. The idea is not to just thrust it on you. It is like a slow burn process that as they walk out of their space, they have these images in their head. And every time I look at this other launch images from before, that is what sticks out as well. So what needs to be on the foreground is always your hero piece. It doesn't have to be the glimmery, like the glittery, shining piece. It can be a very slow burn scenario as well. And that will depend on the mood of the space as well. Like if it's a lounge bar, for example, you don't want it to be loud. You want it to be very subtle, but still sitting in the foreground. But if it's a loud space where there's a lot of adrenaline rush and a lot of chaos that rules the thing, then you need it to be loud as well. So simple as that. I mean, it's just a balance of how you want to tell the story.
Great. Well, we have run out of time, unfortunately, but this has been a great story. If you want to say a couple of final words, I will open it up to you guys. But then again, thank you so much for telling us the story. Very interesting indeed.
Pooja, you want to go first?
No, I don't really have much to say. Just thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for inviting me. It's been great chatting to you both, Maria and Vinod. And I look forward to many more awards that we will win together.
Hopefully. Vinod, is there anything that you want to share lastly?
No, I think it's been great. There's, I think it's first of a series that you're putting together, Maria. So good luck to you as well.
Thank you.
And happy to help to get that thing rolling as well. So great start. I think you've had a decent audience as well, considering it's iftar time as well. So I think it will get better. And thanks for having us on this talk.
Thank you all for joining the sessions, and just keep an eye on the next sessions. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. See ya.